Right then, let's talk about the NBA champions. For the first time since 1973, the Knicks are finally on top of the basketball world, and to do so, they had to vanquish a Spurs team that many had as very, very strong favourites going into this NBA Finals. The Knicks ended up winning in five with a 94-90 victory over San Antonio to seal the deal the other day, even though, my goodness, did it not look like they were going to win that game. As I say, this is despite the dominant form of the Spurs for most of the game as well as the entire series. They actually ended up leading by over 80% of the game time in the series. Just absolutely ridiculous stat. That means over 80% of the basketball played in these 5 games, the Spurs were in the lead and the Knicks still ended up with the gentleman's sweep. I've never seen anything like it. Every single game in the last 2 minutes, the Spurs were up by at least 1 point, and they managed to choke every single game. Losing in five with those stats is just unreal. There's been much talk in Jalen Brunson's career that he potentially is too small or just simply not good enough to lead a team to a championship. This right here proves him completely wrong. It puts him as one of, if not the greatest Knick of all time. He wins final MVP. He's finally changed that narrative. He can lead a team to a championship, and that team was the New York Knicks. This Knicks team will be forever etched into a city that just loves basketball, unlike any other city in America. Some cities might have, also kind of diehard fan bases, but in no other city in the country, in no other city almost in the world, do you see a basketball team, completely capture a city like New York to the point where they're watching the games on the side of apartment buildings. Like, that is dedication unlike any other. Being in one of if not the biggest markets, either them or LA, they do face pressure unlike any other team. They face media attention unlike any other team, and the fans have been waiting for this moment for over 50 years. So on the pressure on the players was unreal, but you wouldn't have known it just by watching the series. So this moment's so huge. It's so enormous for the fans of New York and for the New York fans around the world that might have even never been to the game. You have generations of NBA fans, generations of Knicks fans, all waiting for this one moment and this one crowning moment. The one thing that I think has been really, really cool throughout this series is to see the Knicks fans, taking to the streets of New York, showing their passion. You've got that, what is it called, Sidewalk NYC or something like that, where you see the Knicks fans after every single game of the playoffs just going out and flooding the streets and chanting. And it's the closest I've seen a American team of any sport really, but especially of basketball, get as close to like the football culture, the football culture that we have in England, in Europe, and I love that. I love that so much. I think it's such a good look for the league to have fans that are so passionate and so invested in it. I do think it's amazing. Obviously, most of the conversation is going to be around Jalen Brunson, and to be fair, very rightly so. However, two fans I do think that need as many flowers as possible is Cat and OG Anunoby. Cat's averaged 13 points per game and 10 rebounds per game, and those stats aren't crazily, crazily high considering I'm personally like pointing him out. But one thing that you have to mention is the having someone who is maybe not as good as Wemby, but having someone with the ability to battle Wemby in any sort of way is so valuable for a team. And having that consistency, having that double consistency is so important for a team. And a big morale boost, I think, is the key. And obviously, you cannot talk enough about OG Anunoby. 21 points per game, looking like a very legitimate second option, which I mean, he literally was. He was the second option on a team that eventually won a championship, shooting over 50% from the field. He's just been fantastic. His defensive impact on, the Spurs' young, quick, rapid guards, fantastic. Cannot state that enough. OG Anunoby's been absolutely fantastic. We do have to mention the Spurs, though. I mean, leading in every single game in the last 2 minutes. They'd build a lead and then collapse it later, a pattern that literally repeated in every single game. This was mainly due to untimely turnovers and poor shot selection, which seems to be an unfortunate running theme with the Spurs. Obviously, they're a fantastic team. They were able to take out maybe one of the best teams we've ever seen in this current iteration of the OKC Thunder, but they are not infallible, and those fallacies, those issues with that team are those turnovers and those poor shots. Wemby had moments of brilliance during the series, and he's almost certainly still going to be the face of the league coming soon, but he suffered from what the rest of the team suffered. It was those same kind of issues, and he also, this might be a bit of a controversial take, I don't think he was as selfish as he needed to be. I don't think in the key moments of these huge games, he didn't demand the ball from his teammates. You might think that's a good thing, it shows he's selfless, but if you're going to be the star player on a championship winning team, if you're going to be, aiming to be one of the greatest of all time, if you're going to be the face of the league, you have to say in those moments, I don't care who else is on my team, give me the ball, I'm going to go to work, we're going to live or die by my hand. And I think he was just a bit too passive in some of those key moments. He kind of let his teammates be put in the spotlight. You know, if you really want to be that guy, you've got to prove it, and these are the series you've got to prove it in. He kind of proved it in OKC, right? But still doesn't. Well, I say still, he doesn't have a championship to his name, and until he does, people are going to struggle to give him the praise that I think he deserves. But he needs to. This is only his first playoff run, so we don't want to overreact. But with a man of his size, injuries can always happen. You really, really don't want to squander an opportunity. This Knicks team, straight up, I'm going to say it. This Knicks team, in my opinion, is not as good as the San Antonio team. But they are far, far better in the clutch than the San Antonio team. And I think that's why they ended up winning. Because they'd stay within striking distance, or even in one game they didn't stay within striking distance, and San Antonio would still throw the game. But if the Spurs and if Wemby wants to be taken seriously as the true front runners in this league, they have to convert in these series. We'll see if they can do it next year, I guess. One thing that, a lot of people have said, and I don't want to say it with too much emphasis because, again, it does kind of feel a little bit like we're overreacting, but the Spurs might need to move on from Fox. He might not be the perfect long-term star. I mean, I personally think they should run it back for at least one more season, if not two. If not, run it out to the end of Fox's contract. This was their first real run at a title since Wemby got drafted. And if they hadn't completely collapsed in the clutch in all 5 games, they would literally have an NBA title right now. So I don't think moving on from Fox is the right decision, especially not at this point. He might not be the perfect counter superstar for Wemby, but I mean, you have to stay with him for at least 1 year. You made it to the NBA Finals. You were this close to an NBA championship. If you just if you didn't just lose all sensibilities in the final 2 minutes of every single game, I can't state enough how dominant the Spurs were in this series. Aside from literally just winning the basketball games, it's unreal. I've never seen anything like it. And without meaning to be a downer, and I am going to move on from this point relatively quickly, but I think it is worth mentioning. We are in a period of unparalleled parity in the NBA. And every single season, it feels like, when a new champion is crowned in these last, 10 years or however long it's been, people are going to, right, this is the team. This team is going to be a dynasty. This team, last year, it felt like the only team, after OKC won it, they were going to be the only team that would win it for the next 10 years. That's not true. They got knocked out by the Spurs. Season before. Every single year, it feels like, in this era of parity, where a new team wins it, especially it felt like with the Celtics, the Celtics are going to win 10 more champions. Like, no, they're not. Because the league is as universal as it's ever been, and so many teams have a chance. I do think the Spurs are going to win the title next year, so that's going to be another new championship. And that kind of brings me to my point, which is this Knicks team is not going to be a dynasty. I think this core might make it back to the NBA Finals. I don't think this core wins another championship. I really, really, really don't. I think they're a fantastic team. I think they've had a fantastic run. I don't think they're at the level of some of the teams in the West, and even when the Celtics come back, I don't think they're at the level of the Celtics. You might think, oh, well, the Celtics were, they weren't really. They were not at full power. Jason Tatum had only recently come back, and they threw a 3-1 lead away. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen. So I think next year the Celtics will be the best team in the East, and I do think the Knicks, with this core, they certainly won't repeat. I don't think they'll win another championship. They might. I kind of hope they prove me wrong, because I've really enjoyed watching this team play, but I just don't see it. Some final thoughts then. This summer absolutely belongs to New York and the city of New York as a whole. Jalen Brunson has fully immortalised himself as a city legend, and they can spend the next couple of months celebrating before, obviously, the fall and the time of a new season comes upon us. For the Spurs, I fear they're going to be left ruminating on what could have and very possibly should have been another championship for the franchise, and the first of Wemby's championships. But for this channel, now that the NBA Finals are over, we will turn our attention to primarily the baseball season. And in about a month's time, there's going to be some very exciting content on this channel, because I'm going to be able to bring front and very exclusive coverage of the Vermont Lake Monsters, which is a small baseball team up in Vermont, because I'm going to be traveling there in the summer. However, of course, right now, the biggest sporting event in the world, the World Cup, is in the USA, and I'm English, so I'm 100% going to be covering that, going to be doing all the England games, as well as any other games I can get round to, and kind of give an overall view on my thoughts on that tournament. So, see you later.